Hey, what's going on? So I just want to do some tutorials on how to use some of the software that's on the market that's, really decent. I use Maschine 2 to create some kind of EDM music that I make, kind of eclectic sounding music. So you can use this software without actually having a MK2 or MK1 or MK3 machine controller. You don't need it. You could build this entire song that I'm going to play here without even touching the drum pad. And the reason why sometimes I even recommend going that route is the drum pad, it's good, it's responsive, you can make cool beats with it, but I find that they'll never really be properly like captured or formatted. You always have issues with timing. It will always be a little bit off beat. You can quantize it, but I don't know, I find it's nowhere as good as actually trying to create a beat where you actually put bass kicks and snares and hi-hats on the proper measures and the proper beats inside of a bar. Like, that's the best way to actually create the beat, rather than just tooling around with it and trying to do something on the fly or with your fingers. It will never really, unless you're really experienced, work for you, and it'll make you very frustrated, and you'll waste hours on something that could have been done in minutes. So nonetheless, the way in which Maschine is, and this is not really a video for you if you're just starting out. There are other videos we can I can recommend or you can work on, but this is kind of like you've been tooling around with the toy, you're ready to start composing songs, and you want to know how to actually arrange things. But this is basically how the arranging tool works here at the top. You'll have these lines, and these are the equivalent to instruments. And these are reserved for instruments. Like if I were to just start with a brand new project, I don't want to save anything in this project. You'll see here that you have the first scene and everything is basically blank. There's nothing loaded in for a sound bank, and there's nothing on the first grouping here, which is group A. You would have to load in an instrument. Let's say you decide to load in, like I use a 909 kit, and you drag it over. Drag it up top here, and you'll see that now it loads. So now every single pad on your MK2, MK1, MK3 now actually has a sound associated with it. And then if you wanted to add another instrument, let's say you wanted to add a loop, like I do. I have used this. Why is it so freaking fast? Jesus. But if you load it in, now this second basic instrument is that. And if you were to go back and click here on the left side, you'll see them plotted out like this. It's either done kind of in columnar format or in row format. And then this is where you start composing the song and making parts, like actually creating different parts, like the verse, the chorus, the outro. So basically, that's how you start beginning to arrange songs. If you go back to my song I was working on here, I don't need to save this. A VST that doesn't work. That's basically what it was. I was loading in these different instruments, and every letter here is corresponding to it or being treated as an instrument. Except for group H, I don't need this. Alright, so what I did for this is I literally loaded in the 909 kit, then I loaded in that lead synth, and I put in some extra sounds effects here. I actually put, I think a kick. Some extra sounds here, and I went through these one at a time. Like, you can go and add in this new sound for pad 8 on this second instrument, which is, I call it the lead synth. I could put in, I don't know, let's see, let's not put a loop in, but let's just put in, I don't need favorites, but I want to put in, let's say, some bass synth. Okay, I don't mind that. If I drag it over into sound 8, it'll be the 8th note on my pad, which is this. I can't really hear it. Put that in. You can't see it, but I'm actually hitting the 8th note on the pad. So yeah, you can load in any sounds you want, dragging them in, different instruments, different loops, different sounds into any of those 16 pads on this second instrument. So for the third instrument, I just use another kit. Basically, it's just set up to each sound corresponds to another kick called the perk spicy kick. The horn section, I only had two notes. And I put in a flanger, which I use a couple of different flanger noises. And you can rearrange them here. So I know I have them spread out, but I can just put them one under each other. And then they would correspond to wherever I change the order. Like they were originally at like the 8th pad. Now the 2nd pad will have it. Just make sure I take that off. And then all the rest of the pads are empty. Industrial sounds. And for this, I literally went through and found sounds. I went through this entire library of sounds for Maschine 2.0, and I went through and found stuff like this noise glitch. Now, once you find it, and let's say you wanted to find what category was that, it might be a bit hard to really know exactly what category it is. I would say it's an effect. It could be an instrument sound. The best way to try to find it is just to go look. I know it's called noise glitch, and just literally type in noise glitch and then go under until I find it. The different categories. I think it's an effect. I find this method can work sometimes, but the best method is just to literally favorite these sounds. And once they're here, you can't favorite them. It's only in this library is where you can actually favorite it by just literally clicking here and clicking on the star. Because it'll be hard to go back and figure out exactly where the noise glitch sound actually, what category it belonged to. Because I find that it doesn't search for it effectively. It should be able to grab it this way, like a true search parameter in software where you enter it in and no matter what screen you're on, it looks for it. But it really doesn't. So that's the reason why I would recommend, like, there's some noise bells, noise attacks. It could be here. It would be nice if I could find that exact one. Maybe I favorited it. See, I didn't. So you're gonna have to go through like all of these alphabetically looking for this exact sound. This can be pretty time consuming and a pain in the ass, to tell you the truth. Because there are a lot of sounds here. You have kicks. It might be a one shot. I mean, I think it's a one shot. Yeah, it is a one shot. So see, it was kind of difficult for me. I typed in here noise. You don't get that because I did lowercase. Okay, well, still. I mean, I didn't check under no one shot, so I'm an idiot. But if I had have just typed it like that, you'd see that there it is. All right, so there's all of it, and I did favorite it too. So these are all one shots. I just dragged one shots one at a time. I went through each one to hear what I liked, and I literally just like concrete dub noises. I brought over to 4. All right, the other instrument here is another industrial sound bank, which I think I just use the same. It seems like they're the same. But I remember I wanted to just create, I wanted to duplicate the 2 instruments and create them at different parts and color code them differently. So the reason why you're doing that is so when you try to arrange the song, when you go back up to here, and you want to make these into like kind of like sections, like the intro, like the verse, you would go to create an actual section. And then when you click back on here where you had all of the instruments and then you started making scenes for them, you can now go, the intro uses this kick, this modified version of the synth, and I could use horns if I wanted to, or flangers, and that's what the intro would use. And they would start playing these parts. And if you went back, you would see how they got added here automatically. And I would just take those off. So once you finally have your instruments and you start making sections for them, like you started to go here and say, okay, this is what the the kick is going to sound like, and I'll mute everything else here and just play out the kick. All right, so it's simplistic and it just repeats. So it just goes 4 bars and it repeats. And then the verse section. And it just repeats. So all I really did for this is, like, if you click here, you'll see at the bottom, you should be able to, if you don't highlight this, if you just go to all, okay, you should be able to see all of it, but I'm really just stuck on the verse. Let's go to all of it. And you can rename things, like, so these names, you can change them anytime you want, to just make it easier for you to identify what instrument this is. What I wanted to show is how you can see the entire section. So these are the horns, and it's going to be for the entire length of the verse, where rather than repeating it, I just went to the 8 full bars and then repeated it. So I put here the start for this section as the beginning, the first measure, the first bar, the first beat, and then going all the way to the end of the 8. And then you didn't have to make it all the way to 16. I used to do that. I used to, like, draw this out to 16. But then I found that if I got it encapsulated in the first 4 or the first 8 bars, whatever it was, just better to just repeat it. And how you do that is you could just take this and you could make this big, smaller or shorter by again making this equivalent to the number of bars up here. If you try to expand this, if I were to shorten this to, let's say, 5, is really 4 bars, it will just omit that last note and then repeat it. But what I'm trying to show you is here on the horn 1 section, it is 8 bars, and if you were to draw this and make this longer, it will continue on infinitely in accordance with the number of bars you've selected here at the top. I want to undo everything I just did. It sucks that it's so slow. Because I literally don't even know if I increase this horizon, how many bars it was. It starts on the 9th, it should go 8. So that means it should go up to 17. And it does. Okay. So that's fine. Even if I were to do this and bring it back, I could just bring it back to the 17th and it will play up all the way from the 9th to the 17th bar. Now just expanding this, we'll contract it. And again, for pauses and effects like that, once you have where the second verse or first verse or where the end of, like, you know, a pre-chorus or pre-verse, you can literally just create more distance by just doing this. And if you want to see exactly how many bars it is, it's better to just zoom in here and say, well, this is basically 1 bar and like 2 measures of that bar. And that's the timing we're going to use here. That's how we created that pause. So for songing, like making an arrangements, if I wanted to change the length of this verse, I could just pull on this, pull on that. If I wanted to create space, if I wanted to create a new section and somewhere in here, I could just go to, let's say, even at the end, I wanted to create, you have this plus sign here, right? You would click on this and select either one of the new arranged pieces or create a brand new one. To create a brand new one, it'd be better to go down here and create the brand new scene and then choose what you want to actually have from all of the arrangements that you've already selected. So I could, for instance, just say I want to have that kick and I want to have this industrial sound, and that's what I want for the final scene. And when I go back here, you would just go, I'll select that final scene and it'll have the kick and that industrial sound. For the length, the number of bars you decided, if you wanted it to be shorter, if you only wanted it to be 1 or 2 bars, or a lot longer than that, and then you could actually, using these prearranged sections, which you did before, this industrial component, which you did before, and I plotted this out and I made it 8 bars, I can now make it repeat by bringing it up to 16, making it 24 if I wanted to, or just making it 2 bars by using this editor. And very, very, very helpful for song composition. The harder part is just taking the time to create these smaller sections for this instrument, let's say for the kick, and then differentiating them from each other using this editor here by creating new scenes like this, new patterns, and then saying that these are the different versions of this. Let's say I could just double it or duplicate it, and I could go in and then I could, I don't know, add another like beat right here, the full measure, and then just saying, you know what, this is actually just a modification of it. It's that kick 2 and it's a modification, and that pattern is it's not going to be using the intro because the intro is using this one, but on that new scene it's only going to use this modified one, the different version of it. So this is very helpful for song creation. Very, very helpful. Taking your instruments and then creating new patterns, and then deciding, hey, you know what? When I'm in my timeline on the pre-verse here, I actually don't want to use this bold pattern. I don't want to use this spicy kit. I want to use the spicy kit detuned, where I just created some different sounds and made it a little bit of a different drum pattern. And I want to use that on the pre-verse versus the verse. I want to use the spicy kit, and then the chorus I want to use the spicy kit. You can go back and just mix and match for each of your scenes what instrument parts you want to use. This is the power. This is the very, very powerful feature of Maschine. It helps. Whereas other DAWs like Studio One, you literally got to go like line by line. And then you create things kind of more horizontally using different rows, and it's a little bit more time consuming. This is a lot more functional and makes song composition faster. So if you have any ideas of things you want me to cover, or specifically going through a song start to finish with Maschine and showing the controller more, or showing how I use other instruments, like I have a Mini Lab controller, just let me know in the comments. Peace. Take care of yourselves.
Stormy, float your ass over here and magic me up another wrench.
Nay, Captain.
Oh, yeah.
You're not for earthly goods and pleasures. Cast off this taint and become taintless.
Hey, shut up. It's 420.
Word up. Time to go get some more pills.